My name is Michael Finn. I'm the Global Infrastructure Leader for Deloitte. Really pleased and honoured to be here this morning, and really pleased to be moderating the first panel that we have here. We're also very pleased to be the premier sponsor at Deloitte, and we have our booth outside, and I think some very relevant things on it that based on today's conversation. I think in terms of looking at what we're talking about today, the joys of technology when it stops working. Real estate, infrastructure, the economy, and quality of life. If you put all of this together, they are totally interdependent. You know, we've seen all around the world where cities and economies have really thrived when they've got this balance right. International investment is part of delivering that, and that's soon to be introduced with the new law here, and certainly that combination of global and local brings this to well together. And so it's putting that together in terms of, but what we'll also discover from today is that it's not just about building the real estate. It's about the other things. It's about how do you get the economy going together? How do you improve quality of life? How do you include digital in terms of what you're looking at? How do you embed the enabling infrastructure to make it all work in harmony? I like to say that it's not about building the box. It's about filling the box and making it work as a city and a region that works together and gets all of your people in terms of a great place to live, work, and invest. So we're really lucky today to have an outstanding panel in terms of the group here. And I'll just introduce them quickly in terms of, firstly, we have His Royal Highness, Prince Saud Bin Talal bin Badr, the Governor of Al-Ahsa. We have His Excellency Al-Falih, the Minister for Investment. We have His Excellency H.R.H, Hogail, the Minister for Municipalities and Housing. And His Excellency Al Khateeb, the Minister for Tourism. An outstanding panel, you'll agree, in terms of looking at that holistic view of how we need to deliver in order to deliver a great regions and a great kingdom. And so, Your Highness, I'll go to you first. Infrastructure is not only a means of transport, but a tool to stimulate the local economy. You know, based on the development projects you have in Al-Ahsa, how will you improve the corridors and the access effect on the city's investment appeal and opportunities for the private sector and SMEs, small and medium enterprises? How will you improve that? And then how does this legislation help you in terms of what your objectives are and what you're trying to do?
Thank you very much. Good morning and welcome. First of all, we look at the infrastructure as an enabler for the investments and the quality of life we work upon with the central government. We have a main strategy that comes. We execute depending on the program we have. For an example, today His Excellency Ahmed Al Khateeb is head of the project for the quality of life. We show him the path we're going on. We execute depending on the strategy. Plus, we add upon it the strategy of the housing that the minister is working on to enable the whole real estate development that they have. So we look at three things: social impact, economical impact, and the third thing that we look at in a whole different way, the increase of the quality of the whole projects we have. Infrastructure is an enabler for us in the beginning, but in the end, we look at it, it becomes a very important pillar that works with all the sectors at the same time.
Excellent. And in terms of sourcing investment and that this law is important to you in terms of?
Yes, of course. The investments we have in Al-Ahsa from Ministry of Investment for the last 2 years has increased to 50 billion, which looks at different sectors. For example, the sector of tourism, we have around 4.4 million visitors last year. The impact was 8.5 billion riyals, which shows the strength of the economy plus the strength of the foundation of tourism plus infrastructure in the cities we have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Might move to the Ministry of Investment and Your Excellency. So a bit of an understatement. In a world of increasing geopolitical and market volatility, how does real estate serve as that global economic anchor? And how is the Kingdom leveraging that asset class to drive that national transformation?
Thank you, Michael. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله أصحاب السمو والمعالي والضيوف الكرام. Let me switch to English and welcome our guests from around the world and our dear brothers from the region who are here to see the fantastic development in our economy broadly, but certainly in real estate. Congratulate my colleague, His Excellency Majed Al Hogail, for what he's doing in really transforming the sector in a very positively disruptive way. And this conference has truly become a global event to be proud of for all participants. Just came from Davos, Michael, and certainly geo-economic uncertainty, economic volatility, concerns about the macro economy, whether it's the fiscal, excessive debt globally, potential depreciation of real value of different asset classes, potential bubbles, inequities here and there, where the talk of the global investors in Davos. And in such an environment, people tend to reallocate capital prudently, and real assets in general, and real estate in particular, is always a safe haven to go to. And these are significant asset classes in size. Real assets in general are about 5 times the global GDP, over $600 trillion of value, the majority of which is real estate. But also real assets include infrastructure, which you referred to in your question to His Royal Highness, Prince Saud. And so real assets is attractive in such a global environment for multiple reasons. Volatility is much lower than equities, which is also a very large and natural investment asset class for most people. Volatility in real estate is 3 to 7%, equity is 15 to 20%, so it's a fraction. Yields are healthy. Most asset managers would give on average globally about 10% yield on the value of real estate, which is very healthy. And then it appreciates higher than global inflation, 4 to 5% global average for the base value of real estate. This is by investors. If you look at households and individuals in all cultures and all societies, and going back to history, we've always looked at real estate as the safest store of value. People talk about gold. His Excellency talked about tokenization and digitalization. Crypto is popular amongst younger generation, but let me tell you, there is nothing as safe as real estate as a store of value. And certainly in Saudi Arabia, when I see the great achievements by the housing program under the leadership of His Excellency Majed, going from 47% to 66%, we're not only providing security for our population and our households in terms of having a house that they can live in for themselves and their children. We're also giving them a saving and a store of value for themselves. Of course, real estate is expanding to include new sub-classes. I was mentioning the discussions in Davos. Artificial intelligence is a new asset class within real estate. All of the data centers that will be housing the huge compute capacity that the world needs is being developed by real estate developers, including here in Saudi Arabia, where we have seen great companies, many of them with us in the room, expand their business from residential, commercial, to also include data centers for cloud, for AI. So, and there are linkages between real estate and other sectors in the economy. You talked about tourism. His Excellency Ahmed Al Khateeb will talk about that, how real estate is fundamental, not just in the hospitality, in the hotels, but other part of the value chain of the tourism. So we're, of course, in the kingdom have recognized this. If you look at our GDP today, 13% of our GDP is real estate and construction. It is growing in terms not only of its GDP contribution at double digit, not only in terms of gross capital formation, and we saw the great number of companies that are being recognized for the project they're launching. We have launched, the PIF mostly have launched over $400 billion since the vision was launched in project. If you look at our gross capital formation, which has exceeded targets by 20-30%, a quarter of our gross capital formation, 23% to be precise, is in real estate. So it is literally the bedrock of our economic growth. It presents the foundation for our other sectors. It provides very healthy returns for investors, and with the reforms and the maturity of the sector that His Excellency talked about in his remarks, it is already starting to attract global capital. We're seeing FDI flows into the Saudi economy growing year on year at 12%, I believe, is the CAGR for FDI. It's been a traditional sector for most Saudi business families, but it is now being diversified with sophisticated developers, investors of different kind, including family offices, development companies. Some of them have launched projects of significant size, the latest of which, not the only one, was DAR with the Trump organization announcing $10 billion of project in Diriyah and in Jeddah, and there are many more, too long to mention. So the kingdom is thriving, but I believe real estate at a period of global turbulence and uncertainty is also the sector that is going to be steadily growing.
Thank you, thank you. And coming from Ireland, where foreign direct investment is our lifeblood, I can understand it, you know, putting all the right things in place in order to allow that foreign investment to come in. Real estate, obviously, a massive piece, and you can see with everything happening here in the kingdom, you can see why the foreign, those foreign investors are keen to get in and get involved in a lot of the real estate projects that you're doing, because you've got that economy piece linked into it as well.
You're right, but let me just say that many investors who are coming also would like an asset-light investment model. So if they're in warehousing or logistics, they would love to have local investors do the same. Same thing with AI. You know, many of the AI companies would love a build-to-suit or co-locator with a real estate company to build the real estate for them.
You might just look at the law at the moment and talk to His Excellency and Minister of Municipalities and Housing. Maybe just looking at this non-Saudi real estate ownership law. how that aligns with the objectives of Vision 2030, particularly in that economic diversification, attracting foreign direct investment, a bit like we've talked there, but how does that link in? And then some of the governance frameworks that you've put in place, intergovernmental coordination, all those mechanisms that need to give comfort to those investors that it's there, but also that you're managing it appropriately as you're going through this. And then lastly, just how you expect to use that going forward in terms of the ministry and delivering your objectives.
Thank you. All Saudi Vision 2030 aims to build a diversified, open, globally competitive market. We just heard His Excellency Khalid Al-Falih to show you the magnitude of the vision of 2030. We have His Excellency Ahmed Al Khateeb when he talked about more than 100 million visitors come to Saudi. And what we do to diversify, to attract not only investment, also the talent to this country. And this require to have a very safe real estate transaction. And we, just a minute, we were mentioning how we are building this in terms of regulation, in terms of automation, digitization, and attraction to do that. We believe with the destination that is opening, the beauty of Saudi Arabia is not one city, and is not two cities, is many cities, huh? And it has a environmental, topographic is quite rarely you find it globally, and that will continue to attract more of international to come to these countries. Having said that means building, opening, and we have ministers from regional as well globally are joining us that to speak about their experience about opening the market, how you also have this flexibility. We need in Saudi to make sure that this, as it is attractive, as it is safe, it's the region there where you want to be invest, taking all the advantage of Vision 23 has been built now, and it's coming to make sure that this region, as an indices of real estate asset allocation, to be part of the global attractive index.
Thanks so much for that, and really helpful. And you talked about tourism, and all of you mentioned tourism as being a key part in terms of attracting and apart from it being stunning in terms of course the country here, any of my visits here, but it's the targets of 100 million visitors, huge targets that are being there. But Minister, attracting visitors to the kingdom, is a key part of the investor journey to get investors comfortable and see that there's people coming to the country. So how is the tourism strategy focused on attracting these potential investors? Is there a linkage with that? What are you doing to create greater interest or demand and help, in terms of the wider pieces happening in the economy? And then again, how you link this new legislation into that tourism strategy. How is it useful for you going forward?
Yeah, good morning. Assalamu alaikum. Abdullah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me to participate in this panel. I think having this conference is very important in a time where the country is changing a lot with the Vision 2030. The world is changing and the cities are changing due to the change in technology, materials, building materials, demography, and many other factors. We're blessed in Saudi Arabia to co-op with this change. Actually, in many cases, we lead the change in building large-scale cities and destinations like Neom, Red Sea, Dir'iyah, Qiddiya, and so on and so forth, where we plan the future city from scratch. And this is this is an advantage. You can't have the privilege of having a plain region like Tabuk region or Red Sea, 50 islands to put a plan. Even if you put the plan, you need massive capital and know-how and knowledge, especially if you are doing something from scratch and you are trying to use the latest technologies and to come up with a model that the rest of the world can follow. I thank you. I remember, Your Excellency Al Hogail, the cities in the 50s and 40s were built only for residents, and today most of the cities receive visitors for any reason, for business, like this conference, or to visit their friends or to spend good time, their holidays, more than the residents of the city. For example, the total population of Greece is 12 million. They received last year 36 million tourists, 3 times of their population. But we cannot continue designing the cities like the 40s and the 50s just to cater for the need of the residents, rather to cater for the needs of the visitors. And this is very important, and we're blessed to do this when we develop the Dir'iyya. For example, in Dir'iyya, we're building like 35 hotels and 11 museums and retail and food and beverage. And this mix will not only serve the residents of Dir'iyya, but also the expected 10 million plus visitors every year to this destination. In Davos last week, we launched the Global Quality of Life Index, and we are the first country to launch an index of this kind with the UN Habitat. The question came into our mind like 5 years ago, a very simple question: what is the best city to live in? And we tried to find an index. We could not find an index that can help you and tell you what is the best city in the world that you can live in. And then we started to work with UN to develop an index. There is a happiness index, there is an index for education, there is another index for healthcare, but there is no an index that can look at the whole services any residents and any visitors wants to enjoy. Example, an index that cover the infrastructure like the water, electricity, telecommunications, sewage, road, airports, and so on and so forth. And the software or the livability, like the retail, food and beverage, entertainment, culture, and so on and so forth. And then we started putting the criteria and launched the index, and so far more than 1,200 cities globally applied, 120 registered, and 21 cities already visited. And therefore, in the near future, you will be able to access the index and say, I want to retire in X city. I want to live in another city where I will have better education for my kids, or I want a city that can offer everything plus better healthcare. And when we talk about anything, healthcare or education, we talk about accessibility, affordability, and quality. I think, nevertheless, I don't want to forget the sustainability of the economy, the work opportunities, and the environment sustainability, which is emerging, and I think it became very, very important. And therefore, You know, for us, quality of life is a mandate, is a vision, and a mission. His Excellency, my friend, Majed Al Hogail, is embedding this in the new destinations, whether owned by the NHS or by the private sector. That's why we started to see a very modern destinations led by the direction of the ministry, and more to come. We will be setting an example for the world in how to build a destinations or a cities using the latest technologies, the latest materials, and that can offer you everything in one place. Thank you.
Thank you, and it's great to have that index. I think what's measured gets done, so which is always a good start. So, just coming back, and we'll look at the Saudi real estate sector, and coming to you, Your Excellency Al-Falih. So, how does the Saudi real estate sector evolve into a mature institutional grade market? You know, and how does this new legislation signal to global investors that the kingdom is ready for this large-scale deployment of their capital and getting it involved? So how do you tell the market we're ready?
Well, I think this is a whole of country, whole of government, including the private sector, maturity that gives us and gives all investors, domestic and international, and of course our regional brothers who are here with us today, that assurance. So you have multiple entities contributing, including having institutions like Al-Hay'a Al-'Amma Al-Aqar, the Commission for Real Estate, and they are leading this conference chaired by His Excellency Majed Al Hogail, and we have heard the opening from Abdullah Al-Hammad. So you have a custodian and an overseer, and they do lead a number of real estate specific regulations that give security to investor and assurance. We heard about the big step we have taken of liberalizing our ownership right for non-Saudis. And I don't like the word foreigner. Non-Saudis are residents, and we want them to live here generationally, raise their family, and feel secure visiting the kingdom, having second home, but even having their first home here in Saudi Arabia as they live and prosper. You have our capital markets, and capital markets has done a lot of liberalizing our capital market in terms of the flows of capital into the sector. So we have REITs have been going on in Saudi Arabia, but increasingly we are registering more and more funds to crowd in financing from domestic and international to undertake major developments. From our side, as a Ministry of Investment, we have introduced a very progressive investment law. It used to be the foreign investment law. We've made it the investment law, period. So it addresses all investors, and it assures everybody that all investors are treated equally with a level playing field, with the same rights and responsibilities towards their counterparties and toward the government. You have the digitalization, fintech, tokenization that His Excellency talked about, and then the changing tastes and demographics and demand, and His Excellency talked about what the tourism sector requires. I can tell you, as somebody who is looking after the interest of investors in general, but certainly international investors, and we have today 62,000 international investor registrations in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, 700 plus actually, are regional headquarter companies. These are people who are bringing very high-end, sophisticated international leaders who will live in Kingdom. They will demand significant amount of grade A office space. They will demand residential quality, branded residences, recreation and entertainment, connectivity through the different ways to transport them within the Kingdom, in and out of the Kingdom. And that's going to require investors in real estate that can provide the quantity, the quality, the financial support, and the connectivity domestically and globally under a regulatory system that is fair, equitable, protective, transparent, and steady. And there is no one entity doing this. Certainly in real estate, His Excellency Majed Al Hogail and Abdullah Al-Hamad and their team are doing the lead. Certainly the PIF, with the hundreds of billions of dollars already initiated and the hundreds of billions still to be initiated, provide core investments that other investors can come and invest with. And if you allow me just 30 seconds to elaborate, the PIF has done a fantastic job over the last 7-8 years since they started their investment program. You look at Red Sea Global, you look at Dir'iyah, where His Excellency plays a leading role as Vice Chairman of Dir'iyah Gate. You look at Qiddiya, which just opened their first large asset, Six Flags. They all, and then you have assets in downtown Jeddah, for example, Ru'a al-Madina, Ru'a al-Haram in Mecca. And I can just mention on behalf of the PIF that most of these assets, most of these huge assets, many of them in the 100 billion plus in terms of investment size, are open for co-investments in different forms. JV, lease the land and allow the investors to invest in prime real estate where the infrastructure has already been provided by the government or the PIF, and it's a plug and play where risk is mitigated by the PIF front leading in these giga projects. And this is the time, the next 5 years really, as I mentioned in my remarks during the FIIs, this is the time for us to scale through the private sector, building on the foundation that our great sovereign wealth fund, the PIF, has started over the last few years.
Totally agree. I think this is the time. And maybe I'll come back to you, Your Excellency, in relation to tourism. And looking at that attractiveness of the kingdom, and we called out a number of projects, Dir'iyah Gate, which you're involved in, Qiddiya, and various other. These are significant, entertainment assets, and that are helping in the marketplace. But there's also that attracting, the economic investment, and having. You talked about livability earlier. Having that there is a significant part of that decision-making process for any of these investors, particularly coming for residency and so on. What are you doing in tourism to help with that comfort? That seeing as a destination to come visit, but maybe stay, and how that links in with some of these projects that are being done from a real estate point of view.
Tourism is a major contribution to the world economy. It represents 10% of the global economy, and to the global jobs. It employs 357 million people as per of the United Nations Tourism latest report. And those represent about 10% of the global jobs. It is good for women. 45% of the jobs are occupied by women, and it is good for youth. 80% of the jobs are, equipped by youth, and therefore tourism is good for any economy. And then when we started constructing and putting together the Vision 2030 led by His Royal Highness the Crown Prince, we thought about what do we have other than oil and gas that His Excellency Al-Falih and his group created, and the petrochemicals and the financial services and many other things, including mining and natural resources. I think tourism was one of the opportunities that the country needs to unlock. It used to represent about 3% of the Saudi economy back in 2019. Today we stand at about 5%, and our goal is to reach to 8 to 10% by 2030 of both economy and jobs. And this is the vision, you know, this is the direction. How can we do that? This is the big question that we need to answer. And then we said, can we create another very successful destination, you know, and to be added to the world destinations? And we found that Saudi Arabia is a very big country, well diverse. We have 13 regions. Every region has its own competitive advantages. If you go for example, Al-Ahsa, you will find the Al-Ahsa kitchen, Al-Ahsa music, Al-Ahsa architecture, and Al-Ahsa, and therefore when somebody visits Saudi Arabia, they will enjoy the diversity in the culture, food, music, nature, the mountains in the south, the beautiful islands in the Red Sea. So we said, oh, okay, we have what do we need to become an attractive and successful country in tourism, or a successful destination. And then, you know, we started to talk about we need to develop these destinations. Yes, God gave us the Red Sea, but if we don't activate the Red Sea, if we don't develop the Red Sea, we cannot use the Red Sea. And then the investments and the development of our huge destinations like the Red Sea, you know, Qiddiya, Dir'iyya, and so on and so forth, King Salman Park, etc., started. And then we start to talk about, do we have enough airports? Do we have enough airlines? Do we have enough hotels? And so on and so forth. And then we said, do we have enough entertainment? You know, and do we have enough culture? We found that we have more than 11,000 historical sites. Many of them are registered in the UNESCO, but many of them have not been activated. And therefore we said, we need to activate the entertainment. And I think today with the seasons, Saudi cities and the flagship Riyadh season became among the most active and vibrant seasons and cities in the world. Culture, the Ministry of Culture is unlocking and developing not only the cultural side, but our food, our music, and our fashion, etc., to share this beauty with the world. And so on and so forth. PIF is developing these new destinations. And then the private sector followed, and the private sector learned from the PIF projects. For example, the Avenue in Riyadh is a project that worth billions of dollars to develop, and they are almost half the way to launch the projects. Avenue in Khobar is costing about $2 billion, and then this is what they call content. What we are building is the content that will be shared with our visitors and covered by the Saudi hospitality. We are very proud of the Saudi hospitality that you will not find anywhere else. And therefore, we make sure that our young Saudis are well trained to welcome their guests and to serve our guests. And we, you know, aiming to develop the Saudi experience that is authentic and different and exceptional. That's why many international visitors liked Saudi Arabia when they come to Saudi Arabia for any reasons, for business, for leisure, for sport, for conferences, and so on and so forth. And they started to come again and again. In 2019, the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia received only 10 million international visitors. Last year, we reached to 30 million. This is about 300% growth in 5 years.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Turn to Your Excellency Al Hogail. On one of the things that you mentioned earlier was around tokenization, and it's obviously something that's in terms of that digital, applying digital currency into the real estate market. So how are you looking at real estate tokenization and building that regulated digital real estate market within Saudi, and you know, how do you see that that's going to contribute towards, you know, the market and efficiency in that market and all the investments that we've been talking about?
You know, as demand globally has been changed, and the offering to own the assets has been also diversified. The speed of the transaction, the access to the transaction becomes a way of neutral that. Real estate as an asset quite is limiting access to these opportunities if it becomes in the traditional way where you own a deed that has a minimum size. So a lot of segment cannot access to these opportunities in a way or others. Let me see how many millions Muslims would love to own piece of asset in Mecca. I think billions. Same things as Medina. Okay, same things in many cities that they think it's going to be an opportunity for them. And as we explained earlier about regulating the market to ensure, because it's a very important that investors knows what he invests, what he own, how he can trade it, how he can exit. So what we have done here in Saudi first, to make sure that we are standardize this before it goes to the public, and with the leader of REGA, Real Estate General Authority, with the RER, Registration Authority, and how we digitize in cooperation with our other governments. We want to make sure that the asset itself can be registered, can be attained, even if there is any conflict or any how we can make sure that the investors can get the property to do that. Now this market is growing. It's growing very fast globally. And as Saudi always want to be anything that's in the globe, we are a part of it. And there where we see the opportunities. We mentioned about the DMO, how we're going to go to the market, the steps going. I'm glad today with the sandbox that we have 9 companies, they will start in a certain amount with developer. We are testing that in a closed, controlled pilot. I think by June we will be ready to open this market globally. And that will open the other things. First we started with our field, which is the underlying tokenized asset, real estate asset. I think that will open the stable coin later on, will open about digital real, mortgage or backed asset, RMBS. So the future of growth is unlimited, untapped yet, but it's quite aggressive that we're going to be sure. So just imagine if you have this, then it goes to the securitization market under the leadership of CMA, if the stable coin under the regulation of SAMA. But we want to make sure, as everything we do it in Saudi, is it first is regulated well, it is accessible, and it is being protected for both stakeholders.
And I'll come back to you in a moment, but His Highness has a comment.
As His Excellency was saying, we have a strong real estate market that has been working for the last 50 years. The added value we're having today is we have three main products that we used to work on. Today, with the open market, we'll have different designs from the private sector. This is a healthy competition that's coming in the market. The growth will be very high. The only challenge people will have is choosing the product, depending on the developer. All the locations where Rega has been working on is very well often. Plus, today His Excellency was showing us the full value chain and the full ecosystem for them, for investing in the companies or living as an individual in Saudi. This is the main goal we have in the real estate. The future of the Saudi real estate has always been strong. It went through a lot. We'll have challenges, we'll make mistakes, but we will go after that. We will fix it and continue. And this is the best thing about the market, when you have a strong market. Thank you.
Thank you for that. I'm going to go back to you again, Your Excellency, on municipalities and housing. We talked before about livability, but that positioning quality of life for residents in your developments and in how you're setting the standards. How do you see that is going to be embedded into those real estate and urban development strategies, and how are you pushing that from the ministry?
As we are working in a vision, and this vision put the human and the people in the heart of this vision. That's the basic. So we revisit the all urban planning to make sure that our city inspired and makes livability. Our country now is not anymore only local. It's been, we have a talent from international coming to here. We want to make our city international, keeping our identity is a very strong. One of them is we just announced 2 years under His Royal Highness Crown Prince, the 19 architecture design guideline to make sure that our cities have its identity. So when you go to Mecca, you are in Mecca. You are not in a modern city that you see a beautiful building, but it's not. Because as His Excellency Ahmed Al Khateeb, we have a culture. We have a different lay that we are providing people. People when they come, they don't I think coming to see the modern high-rise towers or a nice building. They want to see the people. Yeah. The way we are revisiting or rechanging the cities to make people close to each other. And I bet you 10 years ago, before the vision, it's difficult for Saudi families to go to restaurants. Not because they are banned, but the engagement, the connectivities, the mobilities, the quality that makes people interact. And now today, Her Excellency just mentioned to me, she arrived from Bahrain. She said the plane is full of young Bahraini coming to work in Riyadh. I am sure I haven't heard it from His Excellency Minister of in Egypt. I think his plane full of inspired young people, they come here. When they live here in Riyadh, they don't feel they are away from their countries because they have a heritage, they have the lifestyle, they have the livability, quality to do. I'll conclude what His Excellency Ahmed, in top of his Minister of Tourism, he has a lot of files that he managed. One of them is the Quality Life Program. And he just mentioned that they have their own, which is a mix of different. We want to make that livability and lifestyle in Saudi are going together. So we are not focusing on livability alone. We are not focusing on lifestyle alone. We are mixing this to make Saudi attractive. And that will help international. When they come here, they don't feel they see experience. They want to come back again and again.
Your Highness, I'm coming back to you, and there's lots we've heard in terms of all the things that are being done and all the platforms that are being put in place. But you're in a region that you're developing, and Al-Ahsa is an oasis of worldwide historical and environmental value, and simultaneously, a city that's looking to modernize and grow. You have to balance those, that implementation of the modern development and preserving the identity that we've talked about, and that culture piece of the oasis and the natural environment, so that development doesn't come at that expense of the heritage that's there and built. So, based on your experience to this point, is your what approach and are they making in the region? And how are you making it attractive for those investors?
Thank you very much. In the beginning, the urban design in the kingdom, each city has its own path. As His Excellency said, today it's different. The urban planning we're looking for, we want to take the quality of life, the environment, plus a whole ecosystem of the neighborhoods. For instance, Al-Ahsa, it's the biggest oasis in the world. How can we provide and add value to it, not take away? And we're working, me and Rega, the leaders of Rega, how to preserve the right real estates in the area, plus how to increase the value of them. And number three, how to continue building without hurting the environment. So it all comes back to the design. The design and the urban planning of the cities will either increase or decrease, continuing with the infrastructures. And that's the most difficult part we go through in the next 5 to 10 years. We'll have a lot of construction, we'll have a lot of plans, we'll work upon it to get the best results in the next 2 to 3 years.
Excellent, excellent. Lots ahead. And conscious of the time, so I'm going to start at the end and come back, but I would like just really, really quickly, with the new law coming in and everything, all that the plans that you've talked about, what is success, or what excites you about the next year or two that you can deliver and in the marketplace?
I think the more diversify, the more attractive we do, the more we see international and local developer are providing the best offering that's suitable for the demand itself. The more we have a regulated market, which is we seen right now been offering, that we've seen that, as you know, municipality is the foundation of all activities that for the city. The more we see our city becomes top rank, where His Excellency Ahmed Al Khateeb is monitoring, that's all will be the focus of next.
Excellent. Your Excellency.
Well, I think, first of all, we have set all of the components on the right trajectory. The kingdom has put the foundational pieces together in terms of demand, regulation, financing, anchoring projects through different entities, including the real estate company, the housing company, and PIF, and the capital markets, providing liquidity. The S-curve, I think if you think of it, we're certainly on the vertical part of the S-curve and climbing very rapidly. I think what excites me is I know our vision and North Star doesn't change. His Royal Highness has made it clear that we're fixed on that destination. The demand is very compelling, and the investors are voting with their money. We're seeing it certainly as a ministry that attracts investors, domestic, regional, international. We're seeing the attractiveness of the broad sector of real estate with all of its components, residential, commercial, office, as I mentioned, data centers, infrastructure, tourism related. And what excites me is as of all of these pieces come together, the offering is diversified, the technology is being developed, and we heard a lot today from His Excellency Al Hogail about the advent of technology in real estate, but I think the development of the financial market rapidly to bring in all of that capital that will feed the supply to meet that tremendous demand that the kingdom represents today is for somebody who's in the Ministry of Investment. That is exciting.
Excellent. Your Excellency.
Yeah, I think success is to develop a city that takes care of the need of all the players in the ecosystem, whether the developers or the government or the investors or the operators, residents, visitors, and everybody has a need. We need to know their needs. For example, the visitors, tourists, they want to live nice, they want to play and enjoy, they want to shop, they want to dine. You know, the Chinese, they want their languages on the airports, they want the Chinese cuisine available in any city, etc. You just want to tick the box and make sure that you deliver a destination or a city that, you know, addresses all the players' needs.
Your Highness.
I think, and this is my view, that we'll have a healthy competition between the developers, and we'll have new products in the market, will increase growth, and the impact of the economy we can see it in the next year, I think. That will change the way the investor will think in the real estate market.
Thank you. Thank you all. And I think, look, a great discussion and really appreciate your input. I think it is very clear this is far more than just construction, building the box. It takes the village. It takes maintaining that livability, maintaining culture and heritage, making sure that it's inclusive and attractive, and pulling it together in order to fill that box. Really appreciate it. If you could just show appreciation to the panel, and thank you.
Thank you.